This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
It's the show where we talk security vendors and aren't afraid to name names. It's Enterprise Security Weekly. Legacy tools flood you with alerts. Node Zero shows you what's actually exploitable. Horizon 3 AI's offensive security platform autonomously identifies attack paths, validates findings with real proof, and helps teams prioritize remediation based on true impact. No agents, no guesswork, no disruption. Just production-safe testing that mirrors how adversaries move in the real world. Stay ahead of credential abuse, privilege escalation, and lateral movement. Learn how Node Zero changes the game at securityweekly.com/Horizon 3. Ransomware. Supply chain attacks, 0 days. Cyber threats don't wait, and neither should your defenses. With ThreatLocker, you're not just reacting to threats, you're stopping them before they start. Our Zero Trust endpoint protection locks down your environment with pinpoint control over what's allowed to run and what's not. No guesswork, no blind spots. Just proactive, built-for-now security that keeps your business moving. Want to see how a true default deny strategy works? Head over to securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker and take the first step towards shutting the door on threats before they even knock.
Welcome to Oktane 2025. I am Mandy Logan. Happy to be here with Dor Fledel from Okta, and we are at Oktane in this fantastic expo area. But goodness, the happy hour just got a little lively.
Yeah. I love it. We all have a good excuse to be here.
Oh, that's excellent. Okay, so starting with this, since this is the first conversation I'm getting to have at Oktane.
Okay.
And because of your role, which please go ahead and share what your role is.
I'm a senior director of product management, managing the PAM and ISPM products in Okta.
Okay, so with me right now, zero in please. What is one thing that you are most excited about for the customer here?
I think that the one thing I think everyone can talk about AI, so I won't repeat the cliche. I'm actually really excited about how Okta is now really expanding the footprint of support and servicing not only cloud-only companies or cloud-really heavy companies, but also servicing big enterprises or customers that have a lot of legacy environments and really catering not to where the future is, but also where our past was, and really acknowledging that.
Oh, yes. I have to say that I like going back to like critical infrastructure and to baseline operations because we have all these fantastic tools and advances and ideas that are coming forward, and yet we are not at the point that those are all adopted. There is no reason to forget that there's a lot of substantive use in what already exists.
Yeah, and I think that the one thing that I'm really proud of that we're actually as Okta doing. So I joined Okta from a startup that was acquired into Okta.
Yes.
I founded it, I was the CEO, and for us, Okta was the number one pick. And I think a big part of it is how Okta is very uniquely shaping identity in the cybersecurity community.
Correct.
And what I really like about Okta's current approach to a lot of things, we can talk about AI, hybrid environments, a lot of them. It's a two-pronged approach of let's shape the future better together on all the new stuff you have, but also the other prong, which is meeting customers where they are and acknowledging the horses that are out of the barn already.
Correct.
And giving good tools to handle them and advance them to the future as streamlined, easy, secure as possible.
Well, and to me, that's a tenet of all good educational structure is you need to go to where the individual is already.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There is no reason to stay over here and go, oh, too bad you're over there.
Yeah.
That doesn't help anybody or anything. And I've got to say, from my experience around Okta, even within the intercompany focus on training and progress, it is such a refreshing and seems like a very stable concept that runs through all that Okta does, whether it's for your own company functioning or for what is coming.
Yeah.
So I am curious, since we are going to kind of start edging into AI,
Of course,
bit,
we have to. We spent 5 minutes not on AI. Now we can go back to AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You had your break.
Yeah.
Now we're back to it. First, can we go into actually about the identity sprawl paradox? Okay. Now, for you, what does that mean? What does that conjure for your customer when you think of that?
Yeah, for us, so identity sprawl is big. Customers have a lot of more identities than you can even imagine.
Right.
And many of the customers I'm meeting, specifically in ISPM, specifically in PAM, we call it the identity jungle. Like if you're not part of a 10 people startup that can fit 2 pizzas, you have a lot of identity debt. And part of the underlying reason for that is that identity wasn't treated as the number one attack vector until very recently. And then the paradox, in my opinion, is really about actually the slogan of Okta to securely allow people to adopt technology. On one hand, you want, and same goes with AI agents. I think this is like as material as the cloud wave that really changed everything we're doing. And you as a security team, what security teams are telling me, they want to really accelerate the business as much as they can, but in the same time, do it securely. And I think that's a big part of the identity paradox that you many times wants to allow people, and that comes with built-in risk. And how do you actually allow them to do it with the security team, with the right tools, and we call it swim lanes for the business to succeed.
Excellent. And that brings to mind to me, kind of going back to ephemeral cloud security.
Yeah.
Now, that is not in the same level of infancy that AI security and adoption are, right?
Yeah.
So on a technical side, and for people in the SOC or people who are integrating Okta, if you could take any experience you've seen from actually securing the ephemeral cloud and applying it to what is something that's useful, or what is Okta providing to technical practitioners that pulls them from the cloud storage to AI?
Yeah, for sure. I think that the main thing that I'm seeing is Okta helping customers get on the maturity curve.
Okay.
Seeing Okta, one of the CISOs I like the most told me, a pretty blunt, I'm Israeli, so I operate well with blunt statements. He told me, I don't care about the tool. I care about the business process I have and how can I accelerate it. And sometimes our tools are helpful to accelerate those. So really, as you're thinking as a customer on a 5-year journey, where are you today? Where can you be in 5 years? And how can you make sure that you're getting something that maybe you could have had in 10 years within 3 to 4 years?
Oh, yes.
And that's what resonating with a lot of customers with very low, let's say, with very high probability of actually hitting it. Now, when we're talking about ephemeral access, I think it's a problem that really challenged a lot of customers, moving from very static on-prem to ephemeral in the cloud. And then what really resonates with customers I'm meeting is the maturity model. So you're starting, 95% of the customers I'm talking to say that ephemeral cloud, they have the least maturity in their environment. So it all starts with understanding what you have and prioritizing and being strategic. How is it within the subject and how is it in comparison to other initiatives you have? And then moving from understanding to vaulting or handling and then remediating. And the last piece is streamlined operations to make the one-off remediations into an ongoing business process. Is really how I saw ephemeral cloud get to a win in customers.
That makes complete sense. I mean, to me, I think the majority of success comes down to processes, not thoughts, not this. It's literally you need to have the process in place, and then it frees up what you didn't even realize was going to be freed up. So is there a particular portion of what you get to do at Okta that you see bring your customers' process further into line with a great future posture?
Yeah, so I would love to talk about yes, about how we help discover and remediate in AI specifically.
Okay.
So there is a lot
Okay.
that's coming tomorrow, the
Right.
upcoming days. Can't
Yes.
steal the thunder for my boss, but I think there is a lot to in the process of. In the past, what customers used to do, and that compounds with AI, is discover a problem in the non-human identity space. It took them months and even years to discover that a problem exists, and then realizing how to solve it, and then solving it took sometimes as long as the discovery itself, just because the business process was complicated. What I'm personally excited to your question is that today, for non-human identities and AI agents, we can auto-detect rogue identities. For example, an AI agent that was just spun up, or a non-human an access key that was just unused in the day of, so almost real time, and then automatically, according to policies that customers configure, actually remediate either through vaulting or through decommission. And customers are telling us that, first of all, knowing it as soon as it happens is material for them because the business doesn't get used to it. And the second thing is that when things are automated, there is less personal friction and less, let's call it, decision making in the process that people do allow machines to do in a very human way.
It does now, and I think of that as almost like a cleaner form of data,
Yeah,
right? It's
fully agree.
which I personally, in my journey with AI, I thoroughly enjoy. Like, I actually really get a lot of calming satisfaction from being able to interact with my bots or my LLMs and get the clean data free from the human component, so that I can take that data and masterfully adjust it to help the humans better.
I couldn't agree more. I'll tell you a story.
Yes.
We're very often in ISPM, we're helping security teams. And part of the underlying business problem is that identity is split. In the responsibility for identity is split between the identity provider admin, Okta, Microsoft, and even like the Salesforce admin, the AWS admin. They have some identity responsibility because of the admins they have, because of the processes they're controlling. One of the sentences I like the most from the customer is that actually what the tools that Okta now has bring them is a clean set of data to make data-driven decisions.
Yes.
And then it's not a, I think you think kind of a discussion. It's like, this is the key indicator we want to track. This is where today at 20, we need to get to 50.
Okay.
Let's align on a plan. Let's align on the how and not on the what. And I think the data, especially now with AI and the proximity of data, is really helping that.
Ooh, now this brings to mind something about, have you seen a recent quick adjustment in any of those items we view as, oh, that's really not quantifiable, and yet you're seeing, oh no, we are starting to quantify this portion?
Yeah. I've seen, I think the most interesting one that I've seen is AI agent least privilege. Okay. So least privilege in general, how much access does Mandy need is a question that's very hard in the enterprise to answer.
Me, I need it all.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. You, like 99.9% of human beings, are control freaks, and same as I, and just want to have the power to do everything and to be accelerated. So least privilege is really not quantifiable. People are talking about an entitlement, but not like how much Mandy has. Is she, from a scale of 1 to 100, what's her overdraft? Is she 50%, 120? Where are we doing? So quantifying that. And I think that now with agents, where it's a kind of like a black box, we want to empower them, but on the flip side, we want to control them.
Oh, yeah.
That discussion just accelerates.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. And to me, that is something, I'm not going to say that it keeps me up at night, right? Because that's not quite where we're at. But even as a mental structure kind of play by play, thinking about how the depth that is required to try to guess what do these agents actually do? What do we actually need to try to do whenever there is so much depth of progress happening that is ahead of what can be assumed?
Yeah. I one of the things that really comes up when you're saying it is that customers many times, I've spoken with this morning with a clothes manufacturer that people know. And what they told me is we can't be locked.
Okay.
Like our employees need to work, but we need to have the right level of risk associated with it. We need to have not too low, not too high, the right level of risk for the business to succeed. And I think that especially today, we're seeing how agents are stretching the limits of right risks.
Okay.
And customers mostly tell us, I want you as a tool and data plane to tell us that we're taking the right amount of risk in comparison to our industry, in comparison to best practices, in comparison to our peer groups, and help us shape the right amount of the right discussion, many times with actually the board of like, we're in the right spot in cybersecurity or we're not, and let's get there.
So I'm curious, what is something that you have seen with teams switching from standing access to just-in-time access? Is there any observable data that you've seen in your customers doing so?
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing that I've seen is that so standing accounts is easier for the end user. Why? Again, to your point, you just want access to everything. I think what really was maybe trivial to some, but not for me, was how the fact that the end users, the developers, the system admins, when they can trust that when they would need you, the access, it would be there. It's like a good friend. Like if they earned your trust of being there at the right moments, you would trust them and give more like leash to them. So what we especially found is that when customers actually make the just-in-time accessible to the end users, they can do like a carrot and a stick and take the standing access, which is a material business risk. And, we're seeing the news almost every day about how a service account that was just dormant for 5 years got a company down.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, Dor, thank you so very much for this. Thank you for kicking off our Oktane. And very quickly, is there one last thing you would like the customer or the people watching to really zero in on?
I think the most important thing that I'm seeing with our most successful customers is customers who view their priorities as a journey and see where can they be in 5 years? Obviously, everyone wants quick wins, but what's the best path to get there? Is what I've seen the most successful and I admire. Those are, in my opinion, the top-notch security leaders of tomorrow. And the more we can help customers get there and be their trusted partner in the process, I think, and not only Okta, every vendor out there, that would just benefit everyone.
Excellent. Thank you so very much, Dor. Thank you for joining us, and please visit securityweekly.com/Oktane. Thanks again for this conversation, and for those viewing, please stick around. We will be right back after the following break.
Do your end users always, and I mean always, without exception, work on company-owned devices and IT-approved apps? I didn't think so. So my next question is, how do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on all those unmanaged apps and devices? 1Password has an answer to this question: Extended Access Management. 1Password Extended Access Management helps you secure every sign-in for every app on every device because it solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM can't touch. Check it out at securityweekly.com/1Password.
Hello and welcome back to Oktane 2025. I am your host, Mandy Logan, here with Alexander Makarov. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. I understand you presented yesterday. How did everything go?
Yes, it went very well. We were really surprised that people are so interested about our phishing resistant journey.
Ooh.
Yes, we we got almost all seats were occupied, as well as people standing. Yeah, we didn't expect so much attention to this topic.
Well, and that's interesting because I would expect a lot of attention to that since phishing is so problematic and continues to increase rapidly. I'm curious, what are your specific initiatives around phishing that Okta either supports or that you have found useful with Okta?
Yeah, in 2023, we migrated to Okta Identity Engine,
Okay.
which is provide phishing-resistant authentication, and also later on they added phishing-resistant enrollment. And since this feature has been introduced, we immediately start testing this in our environment because we saw modern attacks getting more and more sophisticated. Yeah, and we were always afraid of this kind of attacks. That's why we introduced this phishing-resistant first authentication. When user should have something in possession, it might be a key, it might be Okta Verify installed on their laptop or like
Okay.
mobile phone, and only with this they can log in. But later on, we also saw a trend when hackers trying to enroll their devices in order to get access to Okta. Yeah, and then Okta come up with solution for device bound. Yeah, when you need to enroll device next to each other. For example, if you have Okta Verify on your laptop, you can enroll Okta Verify on your phone, but you should be located near this device.
Right.
And this is for us sounds great because nowadays phishing campaigns, it's very convincing, and people might say, yeah, we are from IT support, we are from someone else, and people might get tricked, and they might give 6 digits code or something else. Yeah, that's why we think if you can do this only next to the laptop, the chance of phishing much lower compared with traditional methods.
So you are a staff engineer in identity access management for Adyen. And being in a fintech, I'm going to say almost tight. I mean, if you look at what Adyen has done, for instance, last year processing over 1 trillion in global payments, you're at the forefront of payments and of problems and of the phishing and multi-factor constant changes. I feel like there's a lot of conversation within the security community, at least on the practitioner side, about no, MFA is already dead. It needs to go on to something else. If you look at that sort of global posture, especially because you work with so many clients globally, 200 different countries, what is one factor you have seen in your journey with Okta that will allow those companies to go, wow, our financial services are actually going to be progressively secure?
Yeah, I think as a company, what we are trying to encourage, we're trying to encourage our vendors to support user lifecycle.
Okay.
There is a protocol called Scheme for automated user creation, user update, user deprovisioning, and we can see that a lot of companies, they're not pushing enough their partners or vendors to support this. And in the end, it creates security risk for a company. When, for example, employee might move from one department to another, but their SaaS application might be not updated and might be not reflect reality in working structure. That's why we always working closely with our partners to make sure that we get updates in the third-party apps almost right away once person move from marketing, for example, to HR and so on.
Right.
And I think it's a call to all identity communities that we need to work more closely with our partners to add these capabilities. And as today on keynote, Okta mentioned about this IPSIE initiative.
Right.
And I think it's also really important that more partners, more security vendors will follow those standards.
So standards.
Yes, because nowadays sessions, it's also really high risk because hackers start stealing session cookies and they bypassing all MFAs. And I think this is where it's really a risk coming from. But that's why we recently, for example, introduced Okta identity threat protection to mitigate this risk about session.
I agree. I mean, what you were discussing to me, it's so foundational, but it's also so expansive because we have constant new agents, new people, new things that are changing and growing. And yet Adyen has achieved a 99.6% phishing resistant authenticator situation now. And that's incredibly impressive. So getting to that point, what is the difference from before and after getting to this point of the 99.6% authentication success?
Yes. Once we start using Okta FastPass, we saw a clear benefit of the technology. Before, we used to have time-based codes, and usually if employee wants to log into some application, for example, Workday, they need to always take their phone and open Google Authenticator app or something else and enter this 6 digits code. When we start measuring this, the average login time was 30 seconds.
Okay.
And once we start moving to FastPass, we saw that you can do the same and even in more secure way, in phishing resistant way, within 3 seconds. Yeah, and multiple companies, they trying to push their users for phishing resistant, but in our case, users, they decide themselves that they want to use phishing resistant method. We start advertising FastPass internally, and users by themselves, they start switching from legacy authentication methods to Okta FastPass.
Did they?
Yes, because they see it's much more convenient. Yeah, you just need to touch a sensor on your laptop and you're in.
I agree.
Same also on mobile devices, like Face ID, biometrics, but for us as for business enablement department, it's also a level of trust that our users trust us.
Interesting. So the trust, though, how is that seen? Now, you're talking about your clients, they won't know that you have this authentication success rate, right? They're not seeing or knowing that. They're just using whatever software, whatever tools they have. They're going on about their day-to-day business. So why does using Okta Verify or the FastPass help them feel more confident in you? Why does it change it? Is it just because of the ease? Or do you feel like they actually see something else more from what you are doing with using Okta?
Adyen always commit to the customer high level of security. And since 2006, when company get established, we have 0 security incidents. And this is what we are promoting. And this Okta, our Okta journey, it's one of the brick in this our security commitment to our partners. Yeah.
Excellent. So you mentor engineering teams, right?
Yes.
Right. How long have you done that?
Around like one and a half year. Yes.
1.5 years. On identity best security practices, what are the standard processes that you recommend to those you are mentoring?
I think the most important is documenting what you are doing.
Okay.
Yes, for example, it's not something really hard to integrate application with Okta. But what we're trying to achieve with our engineering team, that we want to know what we will do in every situation. For example, how we can disconnect this application if something happened. Like, for example, if there will be some security incident, how we will handle, in which sequence we will like deprovision applications, and so on. Like, what is a support contact? Because we saw in the past some companies during security incidents, they don't know what to do. For example, there might be some application which has been integrated 2-3 years ago, and person who integrated this integration, he might leave the company. And when security team or engineering team trying to do something with this application, because of the lack documentation, it's really hard to navigate. And during some incidents, every minute is counts. But when you have like clear contact, clear ownership, makes a big difference.
It absolutely. I mean, having clarity is what allows us to find our peak efficiency.
Yes, yes, 100%.
Right. We need simplicity around here's what actually needs to happen, right? We can't go forward with that, and you can't coordinate well or provide rock solid services to your clients unless you have clarity.
Yes.
Have you found in, say, like using Okta's dashboard, that there's a particular feature that allows you to go, wow, this is so much clearer than I understood before?
Yes, I think we also actively using device assurance from Okta. And we were one of the early adopters of this feature. This device assurance let us check OS version, device status like encryption, Face ID settings, and so on. And initially, once we introduced this, we saw that some phones might be not compliant. For example, user is not updated their OS.
Absolutely.
And then we work with Okta product team, and we deliver them this feedback, and they come up with solution when they show to the user that, okay, you're using iOS 18.5.0, but in order to access to Workday, you need to have iOS 18.5.1. And now users know that, they need to update their phone. For us, it was a game changer as well, because we can see dramatic reduction of support tickets, support requests.
Oh, good.
Yes, because now people, they can troubleshoot by themselves, and they can see, my phone is not up to date. Yeah, I just need to update my phone. Yeah, this helps a lot.
And have you seen the ease of use with the Okta dashboard and the other tools really allow your team to be more forward thinking in figuring out how to process payments securely and fast, mostly about how to do it securely with increasing speed? Has it freed up a lot of time for your engineering team?
Yes. With Okta, we save around 15 full engineering hours.
Okay.
Because we redefine our onboarding process. We actively using Okta workflows to provision accounts, to update accounts, to move people between departments. And for us, the main benefit that it's also easy to understand for multiple people. Before, we used to use for this another automation platform.
Okay.
When you need to use for example, Python or some other scripting languages. And when you need to change, it was a little bit hard for new person to understand what need to change. We always rely for one person. But with Okta Workflow, almost every member of our team can have a look to workflows and adjust it as needed. Yeah, this is a big difference. But also with Okta Workflows, we enhancing capabilities of existing applications.
Okay.
For example, traveling applications. By default, this application might not support receiving data from Okta about cost center. But with Okta Workflow, we also is able to submit data to this application, like cost center, legal name, and so on. Yeah.
It thrills me to hear about the forward progress your teams are making, especially with being able to secure the incredibly important currencies of every human and every organization that interacts with Adyen. Thank you for joining us, Alexander.
Thank you. Thank you.
For all of our Oktane 2025 coverage, visit securityweekly.com/Oktane. Thanks again for this conversation, and to all of those viewing here, please stick around and we will be right back after the following break. Welcome back to Oktane 2025. I am your host, Mandy Logan. I am here on the fantastic Oktane Expo floor, and I am joined by Aaron Parecki. Now, I am very intrigued to have this conversation because you focus on standards.
Yes.
That, to me, is a large constellation of undertaking.
You could say that, yes. Yeah.
Yes. Take me back, please. I am a little intrigued. Like, how did you get into the standards route? And then what are you currently really focused on as far as industry standards?
How far back do you want to go?
400 years.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, so I really found myself involved in this because I was building a startup at the time
Interesting.
and was building a developer platform and knew that the way to do third-party app access of the developer platform was OAuth. This was 2010, so OAuth was very new, very much in progress, but it was like clearly the direction the industry was heading. And I knew nothing about it at the time, believe it or not, but I had done enough, developing on my own against other people's APIs that I knew that was the pattern to follow. So I just got through the spec one night and I was like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And wrote a little blog post summarizing what I had learned from reading the spec. And to this day, that blog post is still the most popular post on my blog. But through that process of learning about it myself, explaining it back, building out an OAuth platform for this product, I found myself very involved in the discussions of how it was working. And OAuth was in progress, so I started asking questions on the mailing list, answering questions on the mailing list of the OAuth working group, which it turns out is how you join it. And it's just been very fascinating ever since then. I've always been drawn to those kinds of problems. I think I enjoyed the standards part of the problem more than the actual product that I had been building.
Right.
And I found myself doing talks at conferences about OAuth and then doing online trainings and courses. I enjoy explaining the concepts to people, helping people learn it. Now, and for the last several years, they've been extremely involved in a lot of the different work going on in the OAuth working group and closely related working groups as well.
Again, that's fascinating to me because I'm curious if you conceptualize anywhere close to how I do.
Okay.
When I think of, there's all this development going on, right? Around the world, you have all of these pockets of brilliant people that have an idea, that are developing all of these things. And they have a shared constant between them. So when you're looking at standards, you're like, let's build this pillar here that attracts all of this so that we can take what is actually useful and then establish this and make it exponentially more useful going forward.
I think that's a great way to put it. What I would add to that is that a lot of the benefit of doing that and of standardizing it is to learn from each other's history, to have a shared history where we all learn this stuff together, because one of the worst things is having everybody just reinvent stuff and waste time on their own trying to solve this problem, running into the same barriers, and then having to solve those barriers independently, right? So let's work as an industry on this and we're going to hit some barriers, we're going to solve those, and then we can go and move on to new barriers that we then work through together. Right. And it's also one of those fun things about the standards industry is that you get to work with a lot of the people and companies that would otherwise traditionally be considered competitors. And because of it's really the people that I work with, I consider most of them to be very good friends, right? And it's the corporate angle of it is kind of you just kind of ignore it, right? It's like, oh, we're people working on these problems together, and we can focus on the technology aspect of it, right?
Right, right. Now, I'm curious, because you have taught so much on OAuth, and you have done so globally, like both with, I believe, your books and with trainings and online presence. So now, like, let's say the last 5-6 years, what are you seeing that as you are engaging with people who are just learning about it, who are trying to pivot or adjust, how are they going, oh, yes, okay, these standards are actually useful and I'm willing to adopt them instead of continuing stubbornly on exactly how I want it to be done?
It's definitely it's definitely a mixed bag, right? Like there's I think in the last several years, there's definitely like more of an understanding that a lot of the OAuth patterns and OpenID patterns are kind of expected, right? They're there, people recognize it. It's not something people have to like find the way they did like 15 years ago. There are, of course, still the like, oh, we don't like the way that works. We're going to kind of redo it this other way. And that's where I try to come in and say like, you're probably going to encounter the same problems because fundamentally this is the same stuff. Like users logging into things and granting access to things is like, that doesn't really change like fundamentally, right? So, but I would say there's definitely more of a understanding that a lot of these things are there and able to be built on. There is a lot of, especially with the whole like explosion of AI stuff happening right now, there is a lot of things that appear new, and some of it is new. And I have seen a lot of people building from the existing foundation now, rather than saying everything about OAuth is wrong. We have to do it totally different for agents. At least most people are coming in and saying, we understand that OAuth and OpenID Connect are good foundations, but there are some gaps when you apply these to agents.
Of course.
And we need to solve those. So there's a lot of work happening right now of like a lot of different extension points and new drafts coming into these different working groups of like, oh, we're going to solve this part of it this way, and someone else has a totally different idea of how it works and has a different draft that is in total conflict, and it's going to get hashed out, but it's going to get hashed out together in these working groups, which is great.
So across that entire cluster of greatness, let's say, if you could choose to hard code one standard into the DNA of every AI system that is being developed, what would it be?
That's a tough one. I guess it kind of depends on what you mean by one standard, because like
Fair.
OAuth isn't even one standard. It's there's the core, there's a couple of extensions, there's some. It's a lot of building blocks.
Okay.
I guess at the core, the idea, like the thing that is common across all of the OAuth ecosystem is this idea of encapsulating authorization of the fact that a user granted access to something.
Right.
And then that gets represented in a bunch of different ways, where it's represented in an OAuth redirect flow where the user clicked a button on a screen. It can be represented as a jot, where it's a token that is signed by something else that granted the access, that granted the authorization. It can be sometimes implicit, as in like it kind of is more just processing rules that never actually solidifies into a form, but it was there when the system did the processing rules. I'm speaking very abstractly right now, but
you're going to have to right now, right? Right.
But it's I think that idea, that core idea, won't go away. Like it's always going to be there, and I think rather than trying to fight it or work around it, finding ways to really capture that is necessary. So that is how we're going to have to think of this.
Good. So you are very involved with IPSIE.
Yeah.
Now, real quick, will you give a summary of what that is to make sure every practitioner is aware?
Yeah. So IPSIE, interoperability profile for secure identity in the enterprise. A lot of words. but it sounds fun when you say it as the acronym.
Yes.
And so it's a OpenID Foundation working group, which I am one of the co-chairs of the working group. So we lead the discussions every week about making this stuff more secure in enterprise contexts. So in particular, what we're doing is not writing new standards. We're trying to say, what are the standards that people use in the enterprise today? And how could they be more secure or more interoperable? So a lot of people do use OpenID Connect in the enterprise. So we are working on a profile for OpenID Connect that says, this is the enterprise level secure version of OpenID Connect if you do it this way and you don't do these other options. And the goal of that is to make it more interoperable so that if an IDP and a SaaS app supports IPSIE, then we know that they'll work together. Whereas it is not really actually the case that you can just say, yes, I support OpenID Connect and expect things to just work. There's a little bit more you have to configure for it to work.
Right.
And that's like a lot of standards are that way. A lot of them are frameworks or flexible for good reason so that when they're applied in different contexts, there's at least a common base, but then you can kind of apply the contextual needs differently. So one example is like, it also an OpenID Foundation working group is called FAPI, and they develop a high security profile for OAuth, which originated with the need for banking ecosystems to use OAuth.
That's actually what I was going to. I was thinking about, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so you can imagine in the banking ecosystem, there are like industry regulations. There's a very high appetite for high security. They don't want the lesser secure ways to do things. But that's very different from a like consumer API where they might prioritize user experience over security.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And it's not that either one of those is always right or wrong. It's just that within an ecosystem, they have different needs. And within that ecosystem, ideally, things would be interoperable. So if you take a look at all of OAuth, there's a ton of options. There's a lot of different ways you can apply it and use it, and options you can turn on and off, and different ways to arrange the different building blocks, which is great because it means you can use it for consumer grade things. You can use it for the high security banking APIs. You can use it as the basis for IPSIE doing OpenID Connect in the enterprise.
Okay.
It's just that once we actually start talking about one vertical or one focus area, we do want to start tightening it up and reducing the options so that it meets the security needs of that group and is interoperable. So that's my long answer for what IPSIE is doing, is developing these interoperable profiles of existing standards that we currently use with the needs of the enterprise in mind, of that being the baseline of where we're trying to agree on the security model.
Now, so aside from our audience being able to reach out to you or your team in order to get more information on standards, I understand that like with IPSIE, there are weekly meetings that they could join as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've been having weekly meetings since the group was formed last year. You can go to the OpenID Foundation website, find the working group page there, and there's like the meeting schedule and everything. Okay. The meetings are open to join. If you want to participate, you'd have to sign the OpenID Foundation's contributor agreement. Understood. It's not a very heavyweight document. It's very easy. And then you can actually participate in the calls. And if you have an idea for like a requirement you want to add into the OpenID Connect flow, or we'll eventually get to shared signals profiling. We now are also working on SCIM profiling. Okay. So if you have ideas of like, we wish when we use this vendor, it supported this part of SCIM, but they don't because they never thought anybody would need it, and it's optional technically in SCIM, maybe bring that to the group and we'll discuss it. And maybe you can get everyone to agree, yes, that should be a required part of SCIM in IPSIE.
Right. So with the meetings and discussions you're having in like, say 5 words or less, what is the most highly debatable topic that goes on in the meetings? Oh, making me dig up the drama. We need tea. We need a little bit of tea.
Okay. I mean, this is all, again, these are publicly documented meetings. You can find the meeting minutes. So this is not like I'm sharing any inside baseball here. I will say the thing that has probably caused the most friction is how to deal with a SAML question. So, yes, because SAML is heavily in use in the enterprise, not because anybody really wants to, but because it's there. And it is probably deployed more widely than OpenID Connect. And OpenID Connect is absolutely more featureful and a better forward future, has a better future path for doing new development in it, new work in it. But SAML is there. And the question is, should we create a SAML profile for IPSIE to define the interoperable SAML bits? Does anybody care? Could anybody even change their SAML implementations based on that profile? Or is that code just stuck in some legacy system at this point? So that's probably been the thing that's got the most, had the discussions be the, yeah.
Okay. Aaron, thank you so very much for joining us. And thank all of you for joining us live at Oktane 2025. To view all of our coverage, please visit securityweekly.com/Oktane. We will be back right after the next break with, I guess it'll be next morning, right? We will be back tomorrow morning so that you can see all of the interviews on Thursday of Oktane 2025. I'm your host, Mandy Logan, and thank you for joining us. Welcome back to Oktane 2025. I am your host, Mandy Logan, here on the Expo Hall floor, and I am joined by Heather Jalen of Box.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Very, very
Thanks
good.
for having me.
I have looked forward to this interview so deeply. Now, first, I'm really kind of curious with your background. Share what you would like to, but I'm curious with your background, when did you really start going, oh, AI agents are going to be a thing and I need to pay attention to it? Or did it come as kind of a whirlwind?
It came as kind of a whirlwind. So I was on maternity leave when AI agents started becoming a thing.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, I need to read up about this. I have to be prepared when I come back, and I really have to understand these new threat models. So it was actually great. I spent a lot of time on my leave reading about AI and agents and threat models, things like that. So gave me a lot of time to prepare.
Nice. And I mean, with the rise of generative AI, from your vantage point, what do you feel that the enterprises really need to think about with data governance and security?
So I think now with AI being released across all of our content and all of our workflows and processes, data governance has always been important, but now it's even more important. Mm-hmm. You have to enable data governance across all of your data, your workflows. The pace at which we're creating data is increasing. And that's why we love our customer stories of putting their content on Box to have that centralized data governance so you can enable AI with that foundation of data governance. So you can still get the benefits while being secure.
You know, in a large way, like that is even just a comforting idea. It is such a comforting and relieving and yet such a technically progressive stance. Before actually going on to their questions, I can't help but go back to with you and your team now at Box, as you look at all of our customers. We have so many dedicated, precious customers with so much valuable data, with so much information globally. And you're looking at every sort of end user, every sort of person out there. So when you look at the landscape of what's coming, what makes you go, wow, we at Box actually are helping expand like the data protection fabric, like how Okta describes it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one great thing about Box is we have built security as a foundation, right? And we have built very strict permissions controls around our customers' content. So one thing that's really important when you're thinking about implementing AI and AI agents across your content is they need to be permissions aware, and it needs to have the right context so that the identity can adapt to the different context of the agent. Mm-hmm. And so I think Box is very well positioned, and our customers that use Box are very well positioned to enable AI in a secure manner.
Well, and excellent, because you have the actual hands-on experience of having started integration of all AI agents into your complete workflow, right?
Yes.
Right? Now, please speak on that, because that is still, that's kind of a groundbreaking area.
Yeah.
Go, please, continue, because it is to me. It's just it's such a fascinating vantage point that you have in a way that you're going forward. So what has that process been like?
Yeah, I think I'll break it into two parts. The first part is how we're enabling agents across the Box platform to enable secure, seamless collaboration. So if you think about it, we talked about data governance in the beginning. So the ability, in order to have data governance, you have to know what data you have, and you have to classify that appropriately. So AI agents to automate the classification of data. So it's no longer just keyword-based searches, right? It's no longer just saying, here's the PII and here's the classification content. You can write specific instructions saying, we need to secure all of anything around mergers and acquisitions, anything around M&A activity, and you can write instructions and train the agents to learn how you want to classify content, and then what protection mechanisms, define the protection mechanisms you need to have in place over that content. So when we talk about how AI agents can help with data governance and help with security, that's one example we're enabling across the Box platform.
And what are you finding as far as speed efficiency with being able to do that?
I mean, it happens instantaneously, right? So you don't have to spend time defining rules and adjusting the rules. You can just write in plain language what you want the agent to do.
Right.
And you can adjust and you can adapt and you can do that easily. And it's in the power of your end users and not necessarily just in the power of your IT team to control.
So go back to what you were saying about it not being in the IT control domain. I'm curious, because again, I have a hard time conceptualizing with your client base, being able to interact with them directly and get the real world scenarios of what they are facing. In using Okta, it seems to me that you would have much more clear data more quickly to be able to really understand the landscape that even your clients don't understand is happening at all. Mm-hmm. Is that the case? What do you find with Okta specifically that is helping you?
I think for us with Okta specifically, that helps bring all of our identities into a single platform, right? So when you're talking about AI agents, they're another identity you need to secure and you need to control. So having all of that in one place, your human identities, your non-human identities, and machine identities, service accounts, agent identities, having all of that now in one place. And these AI agents, they sit kind of somewhere between a human identity. They can almost they're going to be able to start thinking and iterating like humans. Yes.
They're executing.
But they're still machine identities that you have to control in certain ways. So having all of that brought together in one is going to allow us to enable to secure how we enable AI across our company.
Well, in using the AI agents that way, what's the most surprising thing you've caught that your traditional stack didn't?
So AI agents, it's really interesting. We're putting them to work for us across security in many different ways, right? So, and that's one thing that I think is really cool. So often we talk about, AI, the risk of AI agents is, really scary and they can potentially do all these things. Yes, but they can also help us be better in security, right? They can help us secure the human element, which has been the toughest piece of security, right? It
is the only
that is the weakest link in our security, not because people are inherently bad or malicious or careless. It's attackers can prey on our natural abilities or our natural emotions and our empathy, right? And they can exploit that. And so now you can have AI that can actually help and be a co-pilot for individuals and for your workforce. So it's helping us be more secure in that area. It's helping us better prioritize vulnerabilities that we need to patch and automate the patching of vulnerabilities. So it's writing the code for us to patch those vulnerabilities that are coming out every single day. So I actually think it can be a force multiplier for security teams.
Fair. And so what are you seeing as far as using the adoption of AI in every part, but talk about it as relates to highly regulated industries.
Yeah. So we protect extremely sensitive data from highly regulated industries. So for us, security is a non-negotiable. Like that is first. Like we have to be transparent about what we're building and the controls, and we're putting the control in our customers' hands, right? Like they control how AI is enabled across their content. And if they've built a strong permissions aware, they've built strong data governance within Box and they've built strong permissions within Box, then that allows them to enable AI securely.
Again, that's very comforting.
It does come with it comes with real risks that we have to evaluate, and that we're thinking about every single day, both in the products we release and then how we implement AI across our company. But again, it comes back to those foundational elements of identity and data governance and protection. And if you've gotten those fundamentals right, then you can enable AI more quickly and more securely.
Excellent. To me, that sounds very similar to the concept of if you do the first 3 years of your child's life well, the rest goes much easier.
That I don't know that I'm doing as good of a job of, but I'm trying.
It's all right. It's all data and governance. It's all the same, right? Now, with your years of experience, including the time at Zoom, entering a very critical Zoom time on a global scale, what lessons have you learned that informed how you are approaching AI today?
Yes, I think one of the main lessons I learned through that is trust is built through transparency.
Okay.
And you have to be transparent about your security practices and when you're doing well and when you're not doing so well. And in that time at Zoom, we grew so rapidly and we had to scale a security team. At the time, the company was scaling to meet all the demands of not just our enterprise customers, but really of people around the world. And so there's just a lot, I think it's very comparable to today, right? Like things in AI are moving very quickly and security teams need to scale with the pace of the business, but we can't be a blocker. Right? We have to figure out ways to partner with the business to enable all of these great use cases, because otherwise you're going to be left behind.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, going back to the time at Zoom, it's such a critical juncture when you could have been left behind in an incredibly complex way. I mean, had that happened. So you already have... let's say not tough skin, not the tough skin of going forward with this, but also I fully understand how and why our customers and our clients would be facing this same pinch point. And I really want to look at this trajectory will allow us to provide the greatest security. Have you, what are your conversations with Okta like whenever you see a trajectory you want to go toward, but maybe Okta isn't quite there?
Yeah. So, perfect example, right? We, for our team, we try to invest in security partners that are going to be with us for the long term and that can grow and scale to meet our needs. Like most security teams, right? We don't want, there's so many different point solutions out there and we don't want a hodgepodge of all these different point solutions that we have to manage. So I think there is benefit of bringing everything together. And so perfect example with, we need to control the AI agent identities that are in our environment and that have entered our workforce.
Right.
And so, hearing some of the announcements today, something we've been talking to Okta about, we're very excited about how do we bring our agent identities into our identity governance that we already manage today.
I'm sorry, when you speak, it's a part where I really just go, I am so thankful and grateful to hear about this progress and this focus. And it honestly, at this moment, I can't even think of another question about it because I feel like, wow, the gravity of what is being done and what it leads to is striking me pretty intensely. So is there anything else you would like to share to our highly CISO audience about Okta or about your own journey that you think is key right now?
I think that the biggest learning I've had is that we need to be adaptive. Things are changing. The risks we're talking about today are not going to be the risks we're talking about 6 months from now. And so we have to do our jobs to stay ahead of the latest threats. And, the threat landscape is evolving. We need to constantly be challenging ourselves to think about how these new technologies we're introducing can be exploited. Mm-hmm. And it's not a drastic shift. We've been doing that as security leaders for years. It's just new risks you have to manage. But we can't forget about all the other things, right? We talked about the human element, the basics of like patching your servers, these things that are still the primary cause of breaches today. Right. So I think it's how do we stay ahead of these threats, but also how can AI make us better about those basics that we need to nail in order to protect our customers and protect our users.
Beautiful. Heather, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. For all of our Oktane 2025 coverage, please visit securityweekly.com/Oktane. Thank you again for this conversation. And for those viewing, please stick around. We will be right back after the following break. Good morning and welcome back to Oktane 2025. I am your host, Mandy Logan, here at the fantastic Caesars Forum in Las Vegas. And I am joined by Matt Imler, who is the regional CSO for Oktane Americas East.
Yes,
right?
That is correct.
Okta Americas East.
Okta Americas East, yes.
Correct. Okay. So I am incredibly intrigued because of your background. I am interested first, can you give me a tiny synopsis of what prompted your interest in security and then into how it plays into what you're doing today?
Sure. Yeah, so I actually started right out of college in the national defense industry. So that was kind of my first introduction to the security world, building systems, but security always had to be top of mind. But eventually I got out into the broadcast media world and working with TV stations and different things along those lines. But in both of those things, I had a lot of experience where I got to play with both the attack side of the house as well as the defense side of the house. So
Good.
It gave me a lot of perspective and really was a very interesting way for me to get into it.
That is. And now when you think back to that moment, you left college and you started on this path to this second, is there like one variable that you have found most useful in driving you forward?
Yeah. So, everything that I learned when I was doing kind of the national defense side of the house, I looked at, what we were doing, what our adversaries were doing to try to attack us. And I really liked the idea of taking that out to the private sector and helping companies basically build security programs, kind of knowing what the best of the best was doing out there and being able to bring that knowledge to a private organization and say, I can help you with securing that, just based on kind of that experience I've had in those, fields that maybe some people don't get as much of a chance to do.
Oh, absolutely. And with your background with Auth0 and Okta, now you said, as you focus on enterprise customers in very diverse locations, in very diverse industries.
Yes.
What is a identity threat pattern that you see emerging or that your team is going, this keeps popping up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so really I think one of those big patterns that we're seeing a lot of is really the privileges escalation and kind of an insider threat attack. So where you're seeing people who are already inside or have taken over an account have already kind of even gotten past that authentication point, but now they're attempting to escalate their privilege or gain access to things they otherwise didn't have access to. So really kind of that post-authentication threat vector that we're seeing where, they're exploiting the help desks or they're attempting to, raise their own privileges inside the company. Those sort of things are really kind of becoming a lot more prevalent now, and I don't think are getting as much attention as they should.
Now that brings to mind, is there anything on that you have seen industries or a certain company do that helped change their culture or that helped situate a software and technological security stack scenario that has depleted some of the insider threat?
Yeah, so there's kind of two ways you can look at it. There's the cultural aspect and the technology aspect. So from a cultural aspect, getting employees involved in the security program and having them feel like they've got a stake in it is a big piece of what we can do. So at Okta, for instance, we had an internal program, we called it Stacks for Hacks. And it was basically the external bug bounty program brought inside. So even employees who found things that they thought might not be secure or could be better were actually rewarded. So either, public recognition, financial rewards, the same way somebody coming from a public bug bounty program would get. But then the other side is the technology side. So things like identity threat protection that are using the different AI engines and things like that to detect how behavior patterns are changing. If this particular person works in marketing, but all of a sudden they're accessing some sort of financial system, like that is a weird pattern,
Right.
and it's something that's not normal for that user. So being able to have technology pieces in place so that you can detect things that are abnormal goes a long way in figuring out if somebody's trying to escalate their privilege or do something they shouldn't be.
So going along with that, especially with, again, going from your background, but what you get to see because you have such a nice broad view. What is a blind spot that you see whenever they think they have their security stack locked down?
Yeah, so I think a big blind spot is both in hiring is a big one.
Okay.
So making sure the people you hire are the people you think they are. So making sure that folks coming into your organization are not going to present a threat to you from the very beginning. So I think that's getting a lot more attention now. We've seen that a lot with the North Korean IT worker scams.
Right.
Where you have folks coming into the organization who are, just trying to get by long enough to either steal data or even just for financial gains. And I think that hiring process has been a bit of a blind spot for a while where it hasn't gotten the attention that it's deserved.
I completely agree. Every time there's a news story that comes out about that, it makes me think about the amount of times that is going on, even in small means. Even just an individual
Sure.
obfuscating who they are, not because they are a nation state actor, but because they are an individual. And,
Yes.
and yet we have, you hear about, it's North Korean operatives.
Mm-hmm.
That really, to me, it kind of galvanizes that you go, whoa, this happens, and it happens constantly.
Yeah.
And yet humans, we desire to trust.
Mm-hmm.
We desire that
Right.
this is building and that our counterparts have the same ideals and purpose and direction. Or at least won't tear things apart.
We'd like to think so.
We do. We definitely do. Let's quick shift to MFA bypass techniques.
Mm-hmm.
And here, I would really like you to just come at me with information on this.
Yeah, so over the past little while, we've started to see a lot of different novel techniques for bypassing MFA. So, there's traditional things like one-time passwords, email, those sort of things where all the attacker needs is already to have access to your email to bypass your MFA. Then we started seeing a little bit more with the SIM swapping. So attackers targeting the telecoms and getting their numbers changed or the SIM cards changed so that they could receive those one-time passwords through SMS.
Right.
But even more frightening recently has been what we've seen with actors like Salt Typhoon. So the ones who are actually compromising the telecoms themselves. So we're not talking about their help desk. We're not talking about getting a support person to change a SIM card. We're talking about them actually going into that network gear and redirecting SMS messages where it's almost undetectable. That's terrifying. and that's one of the big reasons, Okta and other vendors have started saying, we need to get away from things like SMS as a factor for MFA and start looking more at those phishing resistant factors. So those user device bound sort of MFA things that are not as susceptible to phishing campaigns.
Which is fantastic. Our one of our hosts, Larry Pesci, teaches a SANS course that is specific more to SMS communications.
Mm-hmm.
And he teaches quite a few different
Sure.
subjects, but on the SMS communications, and it's something we end up talking about kind of often, about the threat vector of transmissions from the towers themselves being intercepted.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many other factors.
Sure.
So correct. Going to the telecom or to anything that is, in that case, more of the infrastructure to get
Yeah.
everything going. I constantly go back to infrastructure.
Yeah.
Personally, to me, it's just like the root of anything to me is more important.
Yeah. I think that's become a big concern, I think, over the years. And I've been seeing this ever since I was attending conferences 10 plus years ago. People
Right.
talking about all the a little bit light penetration testing they do where they just kind of scan around a IP space and find all sorts of infrastructure equipment, either unprotected or default passwords, things like that, because it wasn't a traditional area that people looked at for security. It was kind of more getting everything running, those SCADA systems, it's not necessarily installed by a security engineer, it's installed by a manufacturer to just run their equipment, those sort of things. Whereas a lot of people are traditionally looking at, well, let's hit the website, or let's hit the login, or let's hit, the software that we can exploit. Getting to those infrastructure targets, it got a lot more popular over the last decade, I would say.
Agreed. So with your customers implementing Okta, is there one security metric that you've seen that really pushes forward how they are responding to any of the threats or the breaches or exploits that have been found?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say it's specifically like a specific metric, but more behavioral analysis. So looking at whether or not somebody's deviated from their traditional pattern of behavior, what they're doing when they log in. So it's more almost like an entropy or something along those lines where, you're looking at how much is this changing over time. So if this person has a specific pattern, they log in only at this time to this time during the day, or they only access these systems. And then you start getting that metric of these alerts of, hey, this person is all of a sudden, they've logged in 9 to 5 their entire career. And now they're logging in 11 o'clock at night or 2 a.m. and accessing a system they've never accessed before. Okay, that's a big deal. That's a metric or a signal coming in that you really can't ignore. So I think more of those behavioral metrics are where we're looking at, enhancing security and being able to detect things a little bit easier.
Is there anything, when you're looking at the behavior metrics across all of the data that you get to accumulate, is there anything your team has found in behavior that really shocked you?
I think what just shocked us, if anything, is when companies don't really provide the correct tools and things for employees, for instance, to get their jobs done, or, we see a lot of these new technologies coming out, things like that. So, for instance, AI tools. A lot of companies have been slow to adopt them into their organization, right, and how they use them and what's approved and what, is sanctioned. You start seeing some behavior of employees of maybe trying to circumvent the rules.
Absolutely.
And then
yes,
you're starting to,
yes,
expose, and this is kind of when it comes out to an insider threat, where it's not even necessarily malicious. It's not even necessarily a thing where they're trying to do anything, maliciously. They're just trying to get their job done. So having a way to, foster the use of these tools in a controlled way, you get away from, that kind of end run they try to do around it. And that becomes possible and opens up this whole new threat vector.
Absolutely. And considering your background with the broadcast media and in creative individuals using different resources,
yes,
like you're saying, like I could see 100% a constant need for, you have a lot of good-hearted employees that really want to do well, and yet they are, circumventing things without necessarily, they're just like, hey, this is a great idea. This is good for the company. Let's go forward.
Right.
And yet you're going, oh, no. This actually is a bad deal.
Well, I think that's why security teams have a really charge to, start becoming more of a culture of yes than a culture of no. Okay. So I think when your employees see you as always just trying to stop them from doing what they think they need to do to get their job done, or they think if they approach the security team and ask, can I use this tool or that tool, they're just going to be shut down immediately. I think security teams need to work towards, okay, well, I see why you need this. I see the case you've made for it. Let's figure out a way to securely do that. Do we need to put it in a virtual machine? Do we need to isolate it? Do we need to, somehow have it vetted? Is there a way we can make it work so we both are happy? You get your tool, but we're also comfortable with it being secure. And then you kind of eliminate a lot of that shadow IT that can come about just because people are just afraid necessarily to approach the security team because they think they're just going to be shut down.
Which historically is
a lot of the way that happens, yes. I'm not saying there's not truth to it, but it's trying to evolve it.
Exactly. Again, sometimes there's stereotypes because they are
exactly, this is true.
Fantastic. Well, to me, that sounds like you have a very good handle with you and your team and with Okta of staying at a bedrock or a baseline of we have so many things to do and so many enterprises with how many millions of endpoints are you discussing in that situation? And yet providing something that is as concrete as can be in the digital space that allows identity to become the enhanced security.
Yeah,
So thank you so much for joining us.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you as well for joining us here at Oktane 2025. Now, please visit securityweekly.com/Oktane. Thank you again. And for everyone viewing, please stick around. We'll be right back after the next break. Welcome back. We are here live at Oktane 2025 at the beautiful Caesars Forum. I am Mandy Logan, your host. I am joined now by Nitin Raina, the CISO for ThoughtWorks.
Thank you, Mandy. Good to be here.
I am very glad you were here. And this intrigues me because ThoughtWorks is at the forefront of AI development and adoption. So this is something you are constantly working on, as well as software development and everything else, being a tech-focused organization. From that perspective, since it's separate than, say, an organization that has nothing to do with technology at all, maybe a dairy farm, but technically they are not focused on this cutting edge side. How has Okta benefited your own company?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So yes, I think we are doing a lot of innovative, lot of new work, especially around helping organizations in their data and AI journey. Okta, we use it internally, right, as our workforce identity platform and security platform. So it does add a lot of value on securing our workforce, securing their credentials, non-human identities, all of that. But I think the core forefront that I'm seeing now, especially with the AI agents that everybody's using, everybody's building, I think the way Todd just talked about this morning in his keynote, the control, the visibility, and the governance, which even when we are building this for clients, they will expect us to help with that too. So I think there is a massive opportunity for many organizations that are trying to do work on AI, building AI agents to leverage Okta and obviously leverage ThoughtWorks as a partner to help build some of these creative and innovative solutions. So that's how I would position it.
Well, and since you have been protecting digital identities for over 25 years, what is this shift that it brings to mind, wow, I can see how great this is going to go?
Yeah, I think the shift is there, right? I think we started from the world where we need to have passwords, we need to have passwords rotated, more frequently. I've seen passwords being rotated every 30 days. Can you imagine how painful it would be for a user? And then MFA came in. Now we are talking about adaptive MFA. So it's just progressing, right? The attackers, the threat actors are getting sophisticated, and so are the defenders. So I personally feel that we're in that location. It's like a cat and a mouse chase where we are trying our best to keep up, but so does our attackers.
So on the side for the clients or the individual that needs to be protected, not on the threat actor side, we're not worried about them at all, right? But on this side, in those 25 years, how are you seeing the humans change how they interact with authentication?
Yeah, I think the humans used to see identity and passwords as a burden. Now, many organizations, including ThoughtWorks, we are in that journey to use something called as FastPass and passwordless, where we are actually making it easier for our users to actually connect to the core system, access resources that are available, and in a seamless manner. So they don't have to have the burden, right, of remembering or, it's like, hey, did I get this wrong? Did I get this right? I think we are trying to make it easier, but still making sure it's secure. So a lot of those
changes has come in many modern organizations where, Okta is helping them in that journey.
Absolutely. And going back to your comment about the 30-day password timeout, that is something that now I also co-host on Paul's Security Weekly, and since I'm more involved in the technical or practitioner side of security, that is an ongoing joke that we have, right? About 30-day timeout.
Yes.
That is just creating more problems. So setting that aside, with multi-factor authentication, how do you see it not going that same route?
Yeah, I think MFA is here to stay. I feel the way MFA was brought in, right? We still use SMS as a factor, not in ThoughtWorks, but you see banks.
Yes.
You see many other, and we still find as security professionals, we feel it's not right. I think everybody should be using, like a Okta verifier or a Google authenticator, things like that, right? Or use your biometrics or device trust. So I think it has made things more from a user experience standpoint. I think it has made things easier for the users, the MFA journey, but it is still, I think it's still evolving. I think it's still evolving in a way where lots needs to be done, where people need to get comfortable and they need to practice, they need to, like sometimes there is a MFA fatigue. People are like, it's like, hey, maybe this is just coming in because I'm trying to access something from my iPad or my phone. So I think just making sure those controls are baked in an organization and then people are practicing it is how I feel it.
So talking about that, like that intersection of security and user experience.
Yeah.
Going between that, do you have a story you can share about finding kind of a sweet spot?
Yeah, I think there are few. So the one which I will talk about, it's again maybe just talking about the fast pass rollout that we are doing in our organization, and I've been on that fast pass passwordless experience. Just imagine when you are as a user. Now I'm not wearing a security leader hat. I'm wearing a user hat. You wake up in the morning. You either go to work. I work remotely, so I walk up into my home office and I start my laptop. And when I'm connecting, just imagine if you can only press, your biometrics, and because you're on a trusted managed device, you get access to, your apps, your data, the things that you have to do. It's seamless, right? It's secure but seamless. So I think that's what I would say is a win-win situation for our users. Users, they shouldn't be caring about this. What they have to care about is the work that we are doing for our clients, the value that we are adding to our clients. But we are making sure they do it in a secure way, but just make security transparent. So that's where I think it's a win-win situation for our users and for our security and our IT teams. So that's one story because it's an identity conference, I think I will relate to that and share that. But there are many more, maybe for the future conversations.
Now, do the end users, I have my own thoughts on this,
Sure.
But do they care about security?
If we are a tech company, we are a tech consulting firm, our users take a lot of pride.
Good.
And because, if you see about ThoughtWorks brand, we are a premium software, consulting and engineering and AI brand in the industry. We do care. We take pride in saying the work that we do, the software we built is secure. So our users are very, obviously they are knowledge workers, they are very smart,
Right.
but they take a lot of care when they are building, products for our clients. So we take a lot of pride in building them with training, with capability development exercises, awareness in a different manner. You can imagine having 5,000 developers in an organization. They are smart, so you have to find a way to train that smart people. So I think our users take a lot of pride. They take security very seriously, not just from a tech perspective, but from a human perspective. Because I think I see human as the main weakest link. I think we can still get things wrong. But our user base is awesome, and I take pride in that.
That's wonderful. I mean, that makes me think with having the sophisticated worker force that you have, that means that you are able to give back excellent data to Okta in their progress too. What do you find about your relationship in providing feedback to Okta that you go, wow, I really love how this has gone?
Yeah, we do share. There are a lot of regular conversations we have based on. I wouldn't call them. I will call them security events. It would be wrong to say that nothing goes wrong in an organization. So whenever we have any specific security events where we felt like maybe this was something Okta could have done better or handled it, we capture those notes. We have a regular conversation with our technical rep, our engagement lead. I'm very active with the Okta group, so
Yes.
I have access to the leaders, and even if something really bothers me, I will go ahead and talk to them. But yeah, there's a lot of back and forth dialogue happening all the time based on what we are seeing through our logs, through our experiences. We share that.
Well, this is interesting to me. Now, being that ThoughtWorks focuses on so much cutting edge development, are you not seeing the actual very deep realities of how good deepfakes are getting?
They are.
What does that elicit in you when you see that?
Yeah, it scares us. So I think the way in the last, I would say 6 and 9 months, what we have seen, right, with generative AI
Yes.
being made available to anyone and everyone. So the cost or the time that a threat actor requires to try some of these things is become commoditized, right? It's very easy. So I think what is happening is we obviously are training our users to catch those before something goes wrong. But also there are technology coming in. I wouldn't name anything specific, but I think there are those trusted, verified sources where, and this is again, like the way you have MFAs, you will have attributes where, is this really Nitin speaking? Or is it, an impersonated, digital fake Nitin speaking? So I think there will be trusted, verified sources and signals that we can capture. And then we'll be like, yes, this one thing is trusted. And you don't have to pay, you have to just maybe integrate with those services. But that's where I think the future is going. Today, it's a lot of, awareness and a lot of, administrative controls. I think very soon there will be tech controls that will come in to, manage this area.
Well, I agree. I've been very focused more on hardware-based or device-based, like endpoint detection.
Yes.
That to me is where I go, I can only guess at what is coming, right? I can only guess at the tide of what is coming and the impact that deep fakes and generated disinformation causes throughout an organization. And looking at hardware or device-based possibilities for a solution is where my heart goes.
Yeah.
Yet I also see like for your company, for the Okta's customers globally, we aren't at that point. We aren't at the point of having deep fakes so cleanly detected
Yes.
that we can all relax.
No, we cannot. I think we cannot. We still have to keep up pace and keep trying, keep experimenting, keep sharing.
Right.
I feel, and I do. I'm from the Chicagoland area. I'm very active with the community.
Yes.
So we exchange notes because sometimes you don't know the answer, but somebody else has faced the problem. So we exchange notes, we talk about it, and we learn through this.
Well, Nitin, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate your time here and sharing from your stores of knowledge with ThoughtWorks. Now, thank you all to joining us here today as well, and to visit securityweekly.com/Oktane to view all of our Oktane 2025 coverage.